Good morning, boys and girls of the internet. Today is Wednesday, November 28th, 2018, vlog number 331. And I cannot wait for Game of Thrones. In fact, I'm wearing a Game of Thrones inspired shirt today. It's under my jacket, but I'll pop a picture up here of the shirt I got. It's pretty nice. Winter is coming. Definitely winter is coming because it's cold this morning. But no, the final season of Game of Thrones next year, I cannot wait. I started thinking about Game of Thrones because I was mentioning it to a buddy of mine at work, and he's never seen Game of Thrones. And he's all like, "Oh, you haven't seen it?" He's like, "No." Like you like, fantasy books or shows like, or movies. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You like Lord of the Rings?" I said, "Yeah." But it's like Lord of the Rings, just a lot more violent. I love Game of Thrones. I even got in the mood to watch an episode last night. I was telling him, I was like, because he said, "Why is it so good?" And I was trying to describe it in the kind of vague enough terms so not to spoil it or anything. I'm like, it has a lot of good intrigue into it. The characters are amazing. You really get attached to the characters. And what I like about it is, as the series progresses, you don't really, other than a few characters, or you may or may not, but there's no overall good or bad guy. There's a good guys and bad guys in most things, and it's obvious, a lot of other fiction, who's who. But in Game of Thrones, most everybody, with the exception of Jon Snow, are doing things, for their purposes, and some people can view them as, evil or good, depending on perspective. And there's a lot of characters that, even though you might hate them and see them as evil, there are episodes where you're like, all right, I sympathize with you. You're not a bad person. You're just doing things do bad means maybe, and you start to feel sorry for them. And very few works of fiction can really do that to characters, to make you feel that way about characters, to kind of flip-flop your ideas on whether or not you like them or hate them. And Game of Thrones does that pretty well. Now, of course, the other thing Game of Thrones does that I mentioned to my friend, because he's all like, "Isn't that the show that kills everybody?" I'm all, "Yeah, pretty much. That pretty much summarizes it. Is that if you get attached to characters, they might be dead." So, that might piss you off. A lot of surprising deaths, a lot of shocking deaths, things that you don't expect. And then again, there's some characters that you expect to die, and they don't. So, a lot of deaths. There was a video I saw once of that was a death counter for Game of Thrones. And of course, yeah, there's a lot of scenes where a war is happening and hundreds and thousands of people are getting killed. So the number, it just kind of estimates. But yeah, individual deaths, it's a lot. It is a shitload. I forget the number. But yeah, last night I watched the episode Battle of the Bastards. I love that episode. Because not only does it open with a really, pretty good scene of Daenerys, her, city is getting attacked, and she's is all badass and whips out her dragons at all these boats and shit. And that's a pretty badass scene. Dragons are awesome. Just really see the, all three dragons bust out, and really, it just really awesome. But then to have a whole giant war at the end, big battle between Jon Snow and Ramsay Bolton to try to get back Winterfell. Spoiler alert. That was just a cool battle. Because I love that whole, and I'll pop up the pictures here if I remember. You know, when Jon Snow is kind of like out there alone on the field, and he whips out his sword and holds it, and I'm like, that is badass. And you see these like charging cavalry coming at him. I'm like, that is just a work of art in terms of you know, cinematic presence. You know, it really holds up, you know, as one of the best shots of the whole series, almost, in terms of what they did with that shot. And then the whole battle was awesome. Like, you really felt how brutal it was, how dirty everything was, muddy, bloody, people's guts spilling out everywhere. And then when like the battle gets really up close and personal, and there's a part where all these shielded soldiers surrounded like the main battlement and were closing in, and everything was getting closer and closer, and you felt claustrophobic. You know, they showed Jon Snow like in the middle of all that, and he was getting trampled and crushed, and you know, you felt like your own breath was, you know, you were having a hard time to, you know, to breathe. The way they did that was pretty badass. And then like finally at the end part, you know, when they get victory, you know, by the skin in their teeth because they got rescued by Knights of the Vale. They came to their aid and broke the battle, and Jon went to go one-on-one finally with Ramsay Bolton. Was beating the shit out of him. Shit was badass. I love that whole episode. There's a lot of episodes of Game of Thrones I like. That's definitely one of them. I love the Red Wedding. That's probably one of the episodes that if you're just kind of a casual fan, that, you know, as you're watching the series and you're like, okay, this series is good, and if you don't know about it, when it comes around and you see the Red Wedding, that's a shocker, and that will either turn you off of the show big time. You're like, fuck this show, I'm done. Or more than likely, what most people do is all like, fuck me, and like you're hooked. You know, that will, if you weren't hooked before that will hook you, because, you know, they kill off like an entire family in one foul swoop, with the exception of the few Starks that remain, but just it's just so unexpected. You just like, there's no way they can kill off all these characters in one shot, all these major characters in one shot, and they do it. And you know, the balls of the story for that to do it, it's pretty epic. At the moment, I've read the first Game of Thrones book, and you know, the books are long, and so I've started to read the second one, but what I'm doing, I'm listening to it on audiobook, but I gotta listen to it more. I barely started it. And there's a lot of differences, of course, between books and the TV show, and that always happens whenever you get books and translate them to movies or shows, because either A, you know, all the details can't fit in, or that it just, some of the details just wouldn't make sense for a more condensed show. But like the first book, you know, it stays pretty true to the series, or should I say the series stays pretty true to the first book, with a couple of differences. After that, like, you could tell that things start to deviate. So that's interesting. I'm definitely gonna rewatch the whole series from scratch again before the next season. I did that for last season because up until then, all I really did was I just watched son. Up until then, I've only watched like the episodes as it came out, and I waited the whole year, until the next season came out. So a lot of times I was kind of forgetting what happened in the previous seasons. So before the last season came out, I was like, okay, you know what? A few weeks beforehand, I'm going to start binging the whole series. And I'm going to do that again this season as well. Just because it'll be more fresher in my mind. Another point I was making to my friend is that when you do binge watch the seasons, you can obviously tell that the early seasons, HBO did not give them that much of a budget to, really have the show. It definitely a drastic, different look to everything. The way, the amount of extras they get for some of the scenes, to the costume design, environments, sometimes, not that big environments for certain scenes that you would think. For some key scenes, they stay the same, like, the Red Keep, and the throne room, that has always stayed, consistent. For the most part, the budget on the first season at least, we know it's been a lot smaller, but because of the success of the show, they ballooned that budget. That's the expensive series to produce now. I heard something that it kind of broke a record for most expensive show per episode for the last season that was made, and it's going to probably be bigger for this one, because they say like almost every episode this next season is going to be like a movie, like a full production, theatrical movie in terms of quality and scope. And it's going to have to be, because winter has come, has arrived, and it's going to be pretty incredible to see. Hedge your bets now on who's going to win the Game of Thrones. There's going to be, good guys, bad guys, Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, Cersei Lannister, or they're all going to die, and maybe it's Tyrion, maybe he wins. Or everybody's going to lose, and the White Walkers are going to kill everybody. That could be a possibility. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to make my bets. Because something like Game of Thrones, I've learned you can't put your expectations on it, because your expectations will be challenged every time. And that's what I like about the show. That's what I like about the story. It subverts your expectations, as some people might say about a certain episode 8 of a certain space opera that will remain nameless for this episode. Y'all know what I mean? Maybe not. It's Star Wars. But counting down the months till final season of Game of Thrones. Can't wait. You all excited for Game of Thrones? Let me know below. I'll talk to y'all later. Everybody have a good day. I love you.